Hello everyone, and welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review stuff that's mostly pretty good, maybe one of the best movies of all time, or a film that absolutely sucks and should remain in the depths of hell. Now, last time we obviously discussed the Karate Kid remake, and obviously concluded the Karate Kid franchise, for at least so far, unless they decide to make another movie right out of the fucking blue. Although, granted, at this point, they probably won't, but anyway. And I said that the next review will be a Redux review, kind of like the Outsiders one that I did, almost a year ago now already. And it's on a movie that I'm pretty indifferent about, I'll be honest, but yeah. Anyway, you guys already know about the title and the thumbnail. We are going to be discussing, again, Independence Day, which was released in 1996, more specifically July 3rd. Of 1996. So yeah. Did I seriously just say yeah twice? Whatever, that's staying in the final cut. So yeah. It's Independence Day. This is probably one of the most, if not the most famous disaster film ever. Like, if you ever mention disaster films to anyone, even if they're not a movie fan, they immediately go to Independence Day as one of the first and probably one of the best. And I'll be honest, it's pretty I'll get into my points later on. And funny enough, the next review is also going to be on the disaster film and will also be, and as honestly, way better than this film. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway, so yeah, no, this was made with a budget of $75 million. Domestically, it made over $300 million, and worldwide, it made over $817 million. So, yeah, needless to say, this one was a bit of a success when it came out. And I think it was the whole marketing stint of, yeah, this is going to be released on the 4th of July, and, you know, what better way to celebrate 4th of July than go and see a disaster movie where, the entire world gets basically nuked. But yeah. So yeah. And this was directed by Roland Emmerich, who I think before this only really directed a few, low-budget films. But apparently it got the attention of some executives of 20th Century Fox. And they were like, you know what? Why don't you go and direct a big-budget film for us? And so he's like, alright. And then he made this. Which, yeah, it's not that bad. But then, ooh boy. But then, oh boy. Only 2 years later, he made this piece of shit. Yeah, that should be enough said. So he went from, honestly, a pretty good movie to, a pretty good disaster movie to a pretty shit monster movie. How the fuck do you do that? Within a 2 years... Yeah, because this film came out in 96. And in 98, he made this fucking thing. Which, yes, I do plan on covering this at some point. Along with the rest of the franchise. So, don't get me started on this. Anyway. So, my history with this film is pretty standard, I would say. I've heard about it for a few years, and then I went and picked up this the 20th anniversary Blu-ray, which is this, back in 2016. That's pretty much when I started the channel, so that's like holy fuck. And yeah, and then I watched it for the review, and honestly, I have not picked it up since. And then, obviously, I rewatched it for a review. I only watched the theatrical cut, because the extended cut, honestly, is just adding deleted scenes that, honestly, did not need to be in the film. And, honestly, kind of degrades the quality a bit of the film. So, I only watched the theatrical cut for this review. Although, honestly, I think I did go into some of the extended cut differences, but, honestly... I was too lazy to even look up it because honestly, like I said, I'm not that interested in the extended cut. So I was just like, just stick with the theatrical. But yeah, so let's talk about that plot, shall we? So a strange phenomenon surfaces around the globe. The skies ignite. Terror races through the world's major cities, and as these extraordinary events unfold, it becomes increasingly clear that a force of an incredible magnitude has arrived. Its mission: total annihilation over the 4th of July weekend. The last hope to stop the destruction of is an unlikely group of people united by fate and unimaginable circumstances. So basically, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. Pretty much, yeah. So, yeah. Those were the two biggest names, and I think that's why this movie was so successful, because Jeff Goldblum at this time, he had some successful films with, the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but obviously the biggest one at this point was Jurassic Park. And Will Smith, he was huge off of the, success of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on television. So, I guess he was just brought in to bring in, like, some of the younger fans, while Jeff Goldblum was like, yeah, let's bring in some of those adults. And Will Smith plays Captain Stephen Hiller, and Jeff Goldblum plays David Levison. I think that's how you say it. They're pretty good. I'll be honest, I barely remember what they did in this movie. Or I barely, there was nothing really, they were just like, oh, those are the good guys. Yay. We have Bill Pullman as President Thomas J. Whitmore. He's good. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. He's like, yeah, he's good, move on. But no, seriously. He obviously has that big speech where he's like, today we celebrate our Independence Day. And apparently that whole scene was, I think it was ad-libbed. I think. Don't quote me on that one. Yeah. We have Vic. I think that's this. I don't know what I can show you the script right now. It's basically just practically scribbles at this point. So I'm like, we're trying to read these names, but it's like, what the fuck was I doing? So I'm gonna say Vivica A. Fox. I think that's what it is. I don't know. As Julius Levinson. Or no, fuck, I read the wrong one. Jameson Dubrow. She's alright. Enough said. We have Judd Hirsich, I think, as Julius Levinson. Okay. Like, honestly, and then we have Randy Quaid as Russell Casey. Okay, this guy is fucking funny. That's about it. Like, the thing about, disaster films, really, 90% of the time, you don't really give a shit about the actors in it. Like, yeah, there's a plot, but it's very paper thin. All you care about is seeing shit blow up. And I think it's all because of this fucking movie that we all was like, oh, disaster film? Let's see things blow up. Because honestly, there's not really that much plot. It's basically just, yeah, UFOs show up around the world, start destroying major cities, and so we're like, well, fuck that. Get the U.S. Naval Service and let's stop them. That's pretty much what the plot is. So, like, it's like we can't that's the problem kind of like with these disaster films where it's like, what else do you talk about? Like, besides the shit that's getting blown up and the special effects. Because there's not that much plot. Okay, there are some exceptions, like the next film that we're going to be discussing on this channel. Which is also a disaster film. But we'll get to that one. The point is that most of them are just like, okay, bam, 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 shit's getting blown up. And then heroes come in and save the day. That's pretty much it. So, really the major selling point and the reason why, we talk about these films still to this day is the amazing special effects. which this film does have some. I will say, the shots of like the UFOs like flying towards Earth. That still gives me chills that when I'm watching it. I'm like, oh shit, like stuff's about to go down. And then we obviously have like the city's getting blown up by the laser beams, which, in fact, honestly, my favorite scene, besides one, which I'll get to later, which is it's not really a scene, it's just my favorite line. My favorite scene is when the White House they're just like the UFOs are sitting in different cities, and it cuts to Washington D.C. and all of, like it's like you can see like the UFO and like in the background of the sky, but it's like nothing happens, and all of a sudden this fucking beam of light just goes boom, hits the lighthouse, and the lighthouse just fucking explodes. Best scene honestly in the film, and the most iconic one because it was used on pretty much all of the advertising. Even on the back of there, the center photo is the White House getting blown up. So that shows you how much they knew the scene was gonna be something, because it's like this is gonna be the main set piece of the movie. Let's make it the best that we can do. And this was still honestly in like really in that transition era where they're still gonna studios are gonna use like a good amount of CGI, but also mix it with practical effects. This is kind of like near the end of that era, because then like 97 and onwards we get basically almost 90% CGI and barely any practical effects, and it looks like dog shit. But this is like one of those last movies where it's like it's like a good balance of the two, and it really really does work. Like I think I'm trying to remember. Obviously Washington D.C. gets blown up. Well, really the White House. Then we have New York. I'm not going in order by these. I'm just trying to remember. We have New York City. We have, I think, Paris is one of them, I think. And that's all I can remember off the top of my head. Yeah, unfortunately they don't really show. Yeah, they just showed New York on the cover, which I think was honestly used in all the promotion art, including the posters I used for the social media stuff. Actually, one thing that I actually forgot to mention in the cast when I initially did the review, which I think I might have. Brent Spiner makes a cameo in this movie. Yeah, the guy who plays Data on Star Trek: The Next Generation is a scientist in this movie, and it's kind of funny because he has like long gray hair, and he's like, you can tell like he's slowly kind of losing his mind because he's talking like really fast and like stuttering. But it's like it's fun to see Brent Spiner as a scientist, and then it's like it sucks when they kill him off because it's like, oh, he was cool. So really I want to talk more about this movie, but at the same time it's like with disaster films there's not really that much to talk about, or it's like, yeah, you mentioned the cast for like a minute, and then the rest of the time it's like, dude, you see the White House get blown up? That's so fucking cool. And it's like, that's not what I want to try and do, but it's like that's the only thing that's really able to talk about with these disaster films. Well, most of them I should say. There are a few where you can actually go really into depth about them, and I do really like them. Especially this next one, which again I'll mention at the end of this review. I will say though, the aliens though do kind of look a bit stupid. It's basically taking the aliens from War of the Worlds and like adding like a new modern twist to it, and it's like, eh. It's like it's all right. And yeah, to really talk about the acting, Will Smith, it's like he's okay, but it's like when you compare it to his acting in like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air at the time, he's way better in Fresh Prince compared to this film. He's just like bland in this movie. Although, granted, a year later, he would very much improve his acting style in The Men in Black. So, props to him. But at the time of in this film, it's just like, eh. Jeff Goldblum is typical Jeff Goldblum, where he's just like, you're free. It's like, like this kid, like this guy is like a fucking scientist. I think that's what his job is. And I'm like, dude, you wouldn't even last 5 fucking minutes in a natural science room. Although I will say though, the way that they introduce these aliens is actually kind of cool and intense, where it's like a radio frequency kind of thing, and it's like, and obviously not like that, but it's like if I could put a clip up, I would, but I can't. But it's like this like very cool kind of like noise that's like, what the fuck is that? And then it's like, oh my fuck, there's alien life that's coming over here. That's so sick. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam, ba bam, 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 fucking blow shit up. But yeah, the whole final act where it's like, and I know I'm jumping around here, but it's like, I'm really trying to figure out stuff to talk about that at least makes this thing over 20 minutes. So that, like, it doesn't seem like I'm just doing it, dude, half-assly. Because, again, like I said, it's very hard to talk about, like, a lot of things with these disaster movies when it's just like, oh, ship comes by, boom, 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 boom. Oh, we gotta go up in the spaceship and then blow shit up. But, like, the whole, like, last act where it's like Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum in an alien ship, and then it's like the president of the United States, and along with the rest of the like the military like fleet is like up in like, you know, jets like trying to shoot it down, and then, you know, it's like, oh no, we're losing, and all of a sudden fucking Russell Casey is like, yeah, I'm here, which is Randy Quaid's character. He's like, yeah, I'm here. And he sacrifices himself to make, you know, the day all good. Which, actually, speaking of which, of that, you know how, obviously, if you guys have seen this movie, you know this already, how he sacrificed himself by, like, just hijacking a regular fighter jet. And it's like, yeah, that's cool and all. But the original ending was him in his fucking biplane. Yeah. Just imagine how much uncool that scene would have been if the original ending was intact, where it's him in his fucking biplane. And it's like, huh? Like, that, I mean, yeah, that's funny, but it's also like, why the fuck would you let him stick these Stinger missiles on a biplane? Luckily, they did some reshoots and then made it so that he was in a regular fighter jet, which honestly works way better. So, I mean, obviously, the iconic line where I was like, hello, boys, I'm back. I think that's fucking funny. And then we have probably like my favorite line where it's like Will Smith like captures this alien and he's like, well, that's your close encounter. I was like, okay, that's funny. Yeah, I guess that really just to talk about it. Let's talk about this, you know, this 20th anniversary. I almost said 4K. Blu-ray edition where. Okay, so I know that, you know, people are like, oh, why don't you have the 4K? Well, honestly, I've heard people say that it's not that much better than this Blu-ray release. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna waste the money to have another a 4K copy that's only slightly better than this. So, yeah. So, obviously, this is a 2-disc special edition, which has both the theatrical cut and the extended cut of the film. And on disc 1, we get a combat review, an ID4 data stream trivia track for the theatrical version, a commentary track by Rowan Emmerich, whatever. But basically, like the director and a few producers from the film. A commentary by Rowan Emmerich and Dean Devlin for both the theatrical and extended cuts. And then a commentary by Oscar-winning special effects supervisors, like both of the, by Doug Smith and his assistant. On disc 2, we have a all-new 30-minute documentary, Independence Day: A Legacy Surging Forward, a gag reel, creating reality, an ID4 invasion mockumentary, and then I think the original Making of ID4 featurette from like the 90s. Then a monitor Earth broadcast, and then a feature gallery. So I will show it off. Yeah, unfortunately the slipcase is a bit worse for wear, I would say. It's still holding up though, so yeah. And then same thing on here. And then So yeah, so this is the regular disc. It's I'm assuming it just has both cuts on this disc, and then here's the bonus features disc. Which honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they actually put both versions on the same disc. Like, why not make one disc like the theatrical cut with a whole bunch of special features, and then the second disc, the extended cut with a whole bunch of special features? I don't know. That just probably just seems me just nitpicking a bit, but yeah. So yeah. So to go over the fun facts, since I already mentioned favorite scenes, the computer virus that saves the day is apparently a reference to the War of the Worlds. Because I think that it's probably like Klaatu Barada Nikto or something like that, which obviously is like the saying that they use to deactivate the robot in the war. No, actually, no, not War of the Worlds. The Day of the Interscope, the day that the Earth stood still. Sorry, completely different one. So actually, now that I'm thinking about it, since that's from that film and not War of the Worlds, I don't know actually what the reference is. Apparently, and also, Jeff Goldblum that apparently says "must go faster" in this film, which is a reference to how he said it in the first Jurassic Park movie, which came out 3 years before this one. The music was done by David Arnold, who at this point wasn't really part of anything that big. Like, he was a part of like some like low budget sort of stuff, like and stuff like you wouldn't really get like too hyped up. But after this, he would go on to score the later James Bond films, starting with Tomorrow Never Dies, and I think going on until I think Skyfall. I think, because I know he did Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. And I think he also did Casino Royale. So I'm thinking that he did it all the way up to Skyfall, because I don't know if he did it for Spectre, and I know for No Time to Die it was Hans Zimmer. So I'm gonna guess he did he did the Bond films up to Skyfall. But he also went on and did the score for this piece of shit. Which actually, yeah, let me clarify that. Did he actually? No, yeah, he did the score. This, actually, no, I'm not gonna talk about that film right now. We're talking about Independence Day. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. So, final thoughts on Independence Day. Like, people used to say like, oh, this is the greatest disaster film ever. And now, obviously, as the years go by, it's like, yeah, it's pretty forgettable when you think about it. It's not bad by any means. It's just, compared to, like, what critics were saying back then, and especially to what, like, some disaster films that would come afterwards, this one's pretty average, to say the least. But it is an overall good disaster film, so I'm going to give this one a B+. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Russell's Reviews on my Redux review of Independence Day. If you guys like this sort of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to get notified when future videos are coming out. Can we please try and get up to 130 by the end of this year? That's my goal for this year. We're only like 3 subs away. So let's try and get to that point. We're trying to get to that goal by the end of this year. You can also click down on my username down there. And also click on my my profile picture right here, I think, to go and check out my channel and check out my other sort of content. Also check the description to follow me on my social media pages. My Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, actually, today I made a Twitter poll asking. Actually, I'm not gonna spoil it for what it is. You guys can go and check it out for yourself. So yeah, go and follow me on my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter. For basically when future videos get posted and get a little sneak peeks of them, and maybe some potential polls like on Twitter. I think Twitter is actually the only one where I could do polls. But yeah, and stay tuned for next Monday, where I will be discussing Dante's Peak, which ironically came out a year after this film. So. Yeah, and I'm really excited to talk about this film, because honestly, a little spoiler here for you guys, I think that this film is a way better disaster movie, and film in general, than that guy. Let's have that flare up in the comments. Anyway, stay tuned for the next Monday for the Dante's Peak review. Live long and prosper. Out.